the water, and other natural resources, whatever you have, you can, abundant supply is there, limitless. As a result, natural resources have been depleted, water polluted, greenhouse gases into sewer in the sky. Business cannot be conducted as usual. This is now the recognition, growing everywhere in the world, that, this is how the world cannot continue. Just give you an example of, for instance, in the case of fresh water, we know that existence is not possible without water. Water is life. Only 1% of the world's water is fresh water. And some of you may be surprised that 1% water supports 40% of aquatic biodiversity and fish resources. 40% is only 1%. And remaining 60% is the 75% earth, the remaining water. And we know how we are wasting water. Pakistan, obviously, we know that how we are in arid situation and how we are wasting our water and resources. So this is a global situation with the natural resources. We are also undergoing, there are parallel crises going on, financial crisis, sovereign debt crisis, and economic crisis, globally, Pakistan. Simultaneously, there is a climate change crisis. The way we are depleting resources, the way the climate has changed, obviously, the world cannot sustain this model. So that's why there is a need for a new model. And the new model means business as unusual, making more with less. You have to reduce waste and make more with less. The concept now is of triple bottom line. When we talk about governance, when we talk about companies' business, mostly we refer to the profit. And when we talk about CSR, we are referring to the people, the impact of the people on the people, the company's employees and other community, etc. Now we are talking about planet also. So the environment aspect that is missing. So when we talk about sustainability, we are talking about people, profit, people as well as planet. The reason is, if 100 years from now, 200 years from now, if there is no planet, there will be no people and there will be no profit. So therefore, most organizations now, it's a global phenomena that governance, strategy and sustainability have become inseparable. And King 3 governance code links governance with sustainability. And most of the codes now that are evolving are talking about, sustainability. So what I was trying to highlight is that in our code, while we have included something on corporate social responsibility, but there is nothing on environmental kind of, carbon footprints of the company, the impact on the environment the company's business has. This is another example that, in the new world, you can see there is one company which is doing only financial reporting, its governance only has bottom line in view, and whereas there is company A which takes into account not only the financial, the bottom line, the social responsibility and the environmental aspects, the company's carbon footprints and its impact on community, its impact on the environment. So you can see that company A is more sustainable compared to company B, which cannot stand on its own on a long-term sustainable basis. Related party transactions, the requirements on related party transactions, largely similar to 2002 code. I don't think there is any significant change. But this was confusing in 2002 also. I think it's still confusing. This needs to be addressed, especially the requirement in C. First of all, it says that basically the related party transactions have to be brought to the attention of the audit committee. They have to be approved by the board. And board shall approve the pricing methods for RP transactions that were made on the terms equivalent to those that prevail in the arm's length transaction only if such terms can be substantiated. Now this wording confuses me a bit. Is the requirement is that board should only approve if it can substantiate that related party transactions were made on the terms equivalent to those that prevail in the arm's length? How do you do this? And what about non-arm's length transactions? There are almost, whenever there are related party transactions, there is an assumption that these are not at arm's length. And it's a global thing. Everywhere there are related party transactions which are not at arm's length. As per accounting standard IAS 24, the only requirement is that the board is required or the management is required to substantiate if it is giving a disclosure that they are at arm's length. Otherwise, people assume that related party transactions are not at arm's length. Now here, in a way, we are saying that board can only approve transactions if they are at arm's length or similar to those at arm's length. I don't know. How will the boards be able to do that? And how do you establish? Because many of these transactions which are between the group companies, between the group like transfer pricing, etc., are known to be not at arm's length. So I don't know how this, people just sign and approve things without really appreciating what is the meaning of it. I think this needs to be, I have not seen such type of requirements anywhere in the world. So this needs to be addressed. It is not a fair requirement, in my opinion, the way it has been incorporated. On directors training, there are basically two requirements. One is, previously the companies were required to, arrange orientation courses for the board. Now, in addition to the orientation courses, each director, I think this was also amended in the previous code, is required to obtain certification by attending mandatory certification under a director's training program that has to be approved by SECP. Something what Hashmi Saab does, I think PICG, I presume would be approved by the SECP. So that is one aspect. But the other aspect, and it is also required in the compliance statement. What is not clear, and it was also not clear in the 2002 code, was whether or not, how many courses are required to be held, and whether there is a requirement to hold courses every year, or at least one every year. It is difficult to interpret, it's not clear. I think at least that much guidance should be given, that my own understanding is that there is an expectation that at least one orientation course should be held every year for the directors. But it is not very clear, and this will cause confusion. The requirements relating to CFO, company secretary, head of internal audit already covered by Hashmi Saab, so I will not go into details of this. But the new requirement is removal of the CFO and company secretary of listed companies shall be made with the approval of the board of directors, and the removal of the head of internal audit shall be made with the approval of the board only upon recommendation of the chairman of the audit committee. This, I think, is not appropriate. It's not in line with the good corporate governance practices. Because chairman of the audit committee's function is basically nothing but to chair the audit committee meetings. The powers, whatever the authority, should be with the audit committee. This is the good practice. So if at all a recommendation is required, it should have been left to the audit committee. That if the spirit or the intent is to provide protection to the, and which is the right thing, that the head of internal audit, which functionally reports to the audit committee as per the new code, his removal should be with the approval of the audit committee, not the chairman. Chairman of the board as well as chairman of the audit committees usually should not have specific executive powers or such powers, you know. It should be the committee. The job